right, welcome to another episode of Piecing It Together, the podcast where we take a look at a new movie and try to figure out what movies might have inspired it. And today on the show, we are talking about Is God Is. I've got Derrick Murray joining me for this one. We got a lot of puzzle pieces to get into. This is a great movie, definitely one to check out in theaters if it's still out there at the time you're hearing this. Hopefully it is, because you should definitely go see it if you haven't already. But we're going to get into a lot of great puzzle pieces for this one here in a second. Before we get to it, I do want to remind you, as always, to make sure you are subscribed to Piecing It Together wherever you listen to podcasts and following us on social media at Piecing Pod. With that said, let's get right into this conversation about Is God Is. Derrick Murray is back with us. We're going to get into Is God Is. How's it going, Derrick?
It's going well, man. Always a pleasure to be on these. I always have a great time. So this is always such a fun experiment. I love it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And yeah, no, it's always fun having you here. And I know your enthusiasm for this movie. You've been talking about it online a bunch. And so I figured I'd reach out to you. And I'm so happy I got a chance to see it. This feels like one of those movies that comes and kind of gets buried, and then maybe later on everyone's like, oh, where the hell did this movie come from? And this movie did kind of just come out of nowhere, it seems like.
Yeah, I had kind of had this on my radar a little bit, and then I got an opportunity to attend a screening with the Q&A with the director and a couple of stars, including Vivica Fox. And I didn't know much about it. It looked pretty cool and stylish from the trailers, and I'd heard some pretty good things, and I was pretty blown away. I find it very intriguing that Amazon is on this just hot streak of theatrical releases, from this to Project Hail Mary to The Sheep Detective. I mean, that's 3 for 3, and I think they have a few others that are coming out. So it's I don't like to compliment billionaires buying media too often. I try to reserve that as much as I can. But whoever's really, truly running things over there, you can tell that Amazon Studios is really trying to have some kind of theatrical presence. And I even said this in my review, but I really hope they don't do to this what they did to Nickel Boys. Because that hurt my soul, where they just kind of fumbled the bag. And to your point, yeah, nobody even knows that movie existed, and it was one of the best movies released that year. So I think Is God Is has a lot of potential. But yeah, I was pretty blown away by this one.
Yeah, and I do think that you could easily see similar trajectories, unfortunately, between the two. But at the same time, this one with that trailer, I think that's a trailer that's going to capture any attention from anybody who sees it, as long as somebody actually sees the trailer. And luckily, it seems like Amazon is putting this one out there. But all right, so let's start getting into some puzzle pieces, and we'll talk more about what the movie is and how everything works here as we're getting through it. But what do you have for your first puzzle piece?
Yeah, so we're gonna start obvious, and then we can kind of move down into some more obscure comps, right? So obviously, the first one is Kill Bill. I think there's a lot of Tarantino in general, just in the way that the film is highly stylized. It's very singular in its language. Every time these characters speak to each other, the language that they speak, it's not foreign language by any means, but the cadence and the language that they kind of create can only exist in this world in particular. And I feel like Tarantino does that a lot. You can fault him for a lot of things. But this tale of revenge with a woman and a journey, and everybody that she meets has some kind of either interaction with Bill, which is very similar to Is God Is, where every person they meet has had some kind of interaction with the monster. They all have different interpretations of who he is and what he's done for their life. All the characters are larger than life, and they're all just almost plucked out of obscurity, which is something that Tarantino does really well too. So yeah, I think there's just in style and form, I think one thing that makes Is God Is such a great film is a lot of people try to do that, right? There's 1,000 Kill Bills out there, right? There's a lot of them. There's a lot of Timu Tarantinos that exist out there. And Is God Is manages to capture a lot of those inspirations, but still make itself feel very distinct and very original, and not like a copycat version of Tarantino. It borrows some of those strengths and some of those styles, But Is God is not Kill Bill. They're not the same movie. There's just
Sure.
clearly inspiration drawing from there, and I think that's what makes it so powerful. So.
Absolutely, yeah, and that was also the Tarantino movie that I was thinking of as well. Although you could definitely point to a lot of his stuff, and like you said, there's so many films out there that their main touchstone is to be kind of Tarantino-ish, and so not all of them are very good. But yeah, this definitely
most of them
is
aren't
one
actually.
of them. Yeah, actually, that is very true, and I find it really interesting too that this director, it's her directorial debut. She's a playwright, Alesha Harris, and you kind of generally tend to think of movies and plays in kind of like two separate lanes as far as art forms, but like this movie clearly is a movie from someone who is a major movie fan, just like a Tarantino. I mean, she is drawing on all of the classic, call them tropes if you want, but all of the things that we see in these kinds of genre movies. And so, clearly, even though she is a playwright, she is clearly a movie buff.
Yeah, and one thing she had said, not to reveal too many puzzle pieces, but one thing she had cited was she cited a lot of her inspirations, which we're going to kind of get into. Tarantino was one of them. But she did say in the Q&A that one of the things she really tried to do to allow it to not feel stagey, but not kind of desecrate her own work from the stage, is she tried to keep the poetry of the stage play and keep most of it intact, but then consciously think about what can I do if I have a camera instead of a stagnant set? What can I do if I can move and see the same scene from this angle, right? Instead of just everything's got to be a flat, almost 2D diorama when it comes to the theater. And so she was always conscious about that, but I think that's one of the things that makes her transfer from the stage to the screen feel so seamless. There's very little about this that feels stagey. And she had said that like her goal was to kind of keep a lot of the poetry is what she called it, but just keep the poetry of the play, but then just figure out how to do it cinematically and just move the camera and just kind of ask herself like, hey, if I wasn't on the stage and I could put the camera behind this car and film it from a window, how will that change the perception without changing the film? And I thought that was just incredibly smart. You could lie to me and tell me this was made by someone who's been making movies for 30, 40 years.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Well, speaking of which, I'll go from Tarantino to another master of the 90s and 2000s and go with the Coen brothers and go with Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Yeah, that was on my list. That was definitely on my list.
Awesome. I mean, this is an Odyssey story, through the South, meeting all these kinds of wild characters who all have different versions of the story that they're telling as they continue through it, and all with a very heavy focus on music. And I think the soundtrack really helps set the stage for this movie, and really helps to like kind of set it apart from a lot of what you might expect from like this kind of Odyssey story. And that's something that Oh Brother absolutely did. And I think that taking that kind of a story, again, we're talking about like stories that are the basis for so much of movie making. So trying to put a new, unique spin on that kind of thing is not always the easiest thing. And we see it crash and burn many times. But to do something interesting with it, it's like a high, trapeze act, and when it works, it's much more exciting that way.
Yeah, I promise I'm not trying to brag. It was just a really, really cool experience. But she talked about this too at the Q&A.
Nice.
So one of the things that she had cited as some of her inspirations is she said that she was always thinking in terms of when she was writing Is God Is, and then when she was making the movie, she was always thinking of ancient Greek tragedies. So the Odyssey. She was thinking of ancient Greek tragedies, and she was asking herself, what would one of those stories look like if the people in the story acted and talked and looked like her? And I just thought that was such a incredible way to do a new spin on something we've seen 1,000 times. Because, to your point, like, yeah, these are a dime a dozen. The Tarantino knockoffs, the ancient Greek stories, the Odyssey in particular, has been done more times than people are even willing to admit, just super indirectly and using it as the bones. But Oh Brother, Where Art Thou is absolutely a movie she cited specifically as something that really inspired her when she was kind of doing this journey and trying to bring it to the screen. So yeah, that's a great pick.
But Christopher Nolan is the one that's ruining the Odyssey.
Well, yeah, of course. Dude, yeah. Come on. Black people in Greek tragedies? What are we doing? This is...
How could we?
How could you? The audacity.
The internet's a cesspool is what we're saying here. Yes, it is. Let's go to another puzzle piece. What do you got?
So I'm gonna do a little obscure one. I'm gonna kind of pluck this out. This is actually one I just recently watched within the last year or so. But there are a lot of similarities in just kind of the religiosity of it and kind of some of the Black culture references. And that would be Eve's Bayou.
Good movie.
Yeah, so I actually really, really like Eve's Bayou. And I think there's a lot of pull from this, not just in kind of its themes, but that is also kind of a revenge story. It's also the characters that we're following don't actually have all the information, and they're basically putting the puzzle pieces together as they're going on this journey. And you see that in Is God Is, you see that with the twins as they kind of encounter each new person or each new facet of the person that they're trying to kill. It reveals a lot about themselves, right? But it also reveals a lot about how much they don't know about the monster, how much they don't know about God, how much they don't really even know about each other, even though they have this like psychic connection. You really start to see that rift of how they're allowing things like rage and passion and vengeance to kind of take shape and take them over. And I think Eve's Bayou has a little bit of that. It's not as stylized. It's a little bit more muted. The mystery's a little bit more slower. It deals with kind of different topics, but I think there's a lot of storytelling links here, and I was recalling that quite a bit as I was thinking of it.
Yeah, Eve's Bayou is a really interesting movie, and it's one of those where like you're seeing this other culture that like is like so deep, and there's so much to it, and there's so much like mysticism to it, and so many things to discover there. And putting that into a genre movie like Is God is like it almost makes it more fun, even though it's still just as deep and there's still as much to discover there, which I think is really cool. But yeah, great movie. I will go, speaking of the religious angle of all this, I'm going to go with Honk for Jesus, Save Your Soul. Yeah. Speaking of Sterling K. Brown.
Yes.
It's more so to that bullshit church scene here in this movie. But to a degree, though, I think the whole movie is dealing with questions of maybe not like a full-blown disdain for religion, but like a distrust of the people who use it. And like, even with, Vivica A. Fox's character being named God, and whether or not they're doing this for the right reasons, and whether revenge and all of these questions that I haven't sussed out all of the answers yet for what it's thinking of this mission that they've been put on. But clearly there is a little bit of a distrust in what religion wants out of people. And whereas in something like Honk for Jesus, Save Your Soul, it's like a pure like, oh, these are just charlatans and just pure badness that comes from religion. But Sterling K. Brown is amazing in both. Even if that movie's not the best, but like he's so good in it. They both were.
He is quite good in both of those movies. And I agree that's a good one because Sterling K. Brown, he is in both of them. But you're right, the way that this movie kind of, it's funny because Is God Is has a positive view of religion in a sense of like, not just religion, but in the sense of spirituality of just what God is, right? Like who sure. God actually is and how they kind of interpret it versus when they meet actual religion and it is a charlatan and they are, they basically worship the monster. They essentially worship the devil. In this congregation, but I love that scene in particular. The choreography is fantastic. Erica Alexander is just delightful. Like she's so good in this movie. She's so funny. But yeah, Sterling K. Brown. I was deeply unsettled by his performance in Is God Is. He genuinely terrified me when I was watching this movie because he is. Whew, He's
he's
scary.
the best.
Yeah.
He's the best. Also, along with the actress whose name escapes me at the moment, but also the son is great too. I
Yeah.
thought he was really great.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of great performances all throughout this. Lots of great characters. But let's go to another piece. What do you got next?
Yeah, I'm gonna do another one that I think is kind of a stretch, but I do think it's some of it in there. So I'm gonna go with Thelma and Louise.
Yeah, sure.
I think there's a lot of road trip movies out there. Most of the time, when you have a road trip movie, it's usually just straight comedy. Whereas Thelma and Louise is a little bit of both. It's a little bit more dramatic than it is comedic, but
Hmm.
it is kind of two women on a mission, and they're kind of discovering themselves as they go on this mission. They're discovering themselves both individually and who they are together. Both ends, not to spoil anything in Is God Is, but there is a line in Is God Is that basically says some version of, be careful with vengeance. You never know where the blood is going to fall. And that's a very
Yeah.
ominous kind of warning of like, hey, if you go down this road of revenge, it's probably not going to end the way that you think. And I think Thelma and Louise has a lot of that in their journey that they go where they start and where they end. It's kind of a Greek tragedy essentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so yeah, I think that's a really good one, especially with the women kind of put front and
Yeah.
center.
No, it was one that I had thought of as well, and like I think the idea of these they're wronged in very different ways, but they're going on a road trip because they've been wronged, and then just kind of leaving havoc in their path along the way, whether they mean to or not. Wherever they end up, it just kind of like goes in that direction. I think that there's a lot of parallels here that could definitely be played with Thelma and Louise. I'm gonna take it back to Sterling K. Brown though. I was thinking of Hannibal for how freaking psychotic he is, especially the whole sequence around the dinner table. He is just so calm and collected, but like terrifying. It's a fantastic performance. I mean, the girls are definitely the standout here, but like he just can't help himself but steal every movie he's in. He's
Yeah.
just so damn good, and it's a psycho performance like for like the decade. Honestly, it's up there.
Yeah, and I kind of attributing it to the way that Tarantino does something similar in Kill Bill, where it kind of hides the name. It hides Bill for
Hmm.
5 hours, essentially. Like we
Sure.
never actually see him fully revealed. And when you do meet him, he's not necessarily what you expect. And Sterling K. Brown definitely does that. And there's definitely a lot of that where he looms over the whole movie, but we don't really get him until the last 20, 30 minutes. But
Sure.
he is sensational in this. He's so good in this movie.
Wonderful. Just so damn good. So I'm gonna actually go with another one here with the idea of like the whole revenge thing and it potentially destroying you, like you mentioned that line about the blood may fall in a place you don't expect. I'm gonna go with Promising Young Woman as another puzzle piece here.
Yeah.
The climax does revolve around stripping turned violent, so we do kind of have that there as well. But ultimately, though, this woman going on this path of revenge and it destroying her, that is something that you kind of know right from the onset, like it's just not going to end well, whether it is a worthwhile cause or not, whether or not she's going on a just mission of revenge. It's not going to work out. And Promising Young Woman is definitely one of those movies where like you just know from the get-go, like yes, you were very wronged, and that guy deserves to get his comeuppance, but at the same time, this isn't going to end well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's
So,
a great pick, and it's actually kind of similar because it's so the one I was thinking of is the Count of Monte Cristo, um,
okay,
which obviously have very different ideas of what revenge does and vengeance, but at the same time, it is there's a lot of there's a lot of groundwork that gets laid in these kinds of revenge stories, and it's somebody who is essentially tasked with claiming their life back, and someone who has kind of suffered their whole life, which the twins definitely have, and
yeah,
they are basically fueled by this revenge. That is the thing that's keeping them alive. That's the thing that's driving them literally towards whatever this end is. And the Count of Monte Cristo has a lot of that, right? Like obviously the girls don't become insanely wealthy and can plot these huge revenge these huge
sure,
revenge things, but at the same time, like one of the lessons from Count of Monte Cristo is how much vengeance corrupts him and how much it affects him, and claims lives and claims people that he never intended to get hurt. And that is something that's very prevalent in Is God Is, where these aren't killers. They don't even, they have whole discussions about how they're going to do it, and if it's even something that they're even capable of. And you watch as just this vengeance and revenge and passion just kind of consumes them, but it's driven by all the things that have been robbed from them in their life, and all the things they've had to endure because of what this man did when they were very little. So I definitely think there's some puzzle pieces there.
It seems like there's a very overt, like metaphorical way of like these two characters being two sides of the coin of how you deal with all of this happening, and to see those two kind of play out and be two distinct personalities, and how they kind of interact with each other the same way somebody's mind would kind of like fight with themselves, about how they should go about with this, is all really, really great to see. But yeah, great stuff there. I'll go with my last one here, which isn't really a puzzle piece in the sense of an influence because it's a movie that just came out, but I did want to bring it up as kind of a companion piece in a way, and that's They Will Kill You from last month with Zazie Beetz in this hotel filled with a murderous cult, another kind of genre movie, but told with a black protagonist. And we've seen this movie 1,000 times with white people killing everybody in a room. You know what I mean? So what is the reason necessarily for telling it through this other lens? And obviously that movie was not written and directed by a black person. I think it was like a Russian.
It is. It's a Russian white dude.
Yeah, which is I don't know what his reasons were exactly, but obviously there's a lot more here to the reasoning for that kind of a story. But still, we've talked about it in multiple puzzle pieces here, that these are these like kind of genre movies that we've seen hundreds of times over, but at the same time, we are telling them very specifically with a different lens this time around.
Yeah. So I'm actually going to do two as my last one. So this one, well, I'm going to cheat a little bit. It's technically three, but I'm going to do two. This is kind of harkening back to some of that Tarantino influence, because Alesha Harris, the director and writer, she did reference spaghetti westerns, which take your pick. Like, they're all here. This is very much a spaghetti western. Tarantino's made his whole career off of watching basically spaghetti westerns and old Hong Kong movies, and then being like, I'm going to do that, but do American gangsters and make them say the N-word. And then you get Tarantino's whole career, which I am a fan, but I'm very aware of his issues overall. So there's definitely that, and then kind of aligned with the Kill Bill. The Lady Snowblood, that's one that Harris absolutely cited as being a big influence. And Lady Snowblood is almost directly ripped off by Kill Bill itself, which is also
I've actually never seen it.
Oh,
I need to watch it one of these days.
Bro, I've gone back and spent a little bit of time kind of watching some of those more direct, influential movies that Tarantino clearly watched to make his career. Things like City on Fire, A Cult Is My Passport, Lady Snowblood, even some of the Prisoner movies. There are City on Fire. There are literal scenes that are just like shot for shot. He just was like, I'm taking this, and just rips it out, doesn't change a thing. Particularly Kill Bill. If you watch Lady Snowblood, that whole last fight she has with
the Lucy Liu
with the Lucy Liu fight. Bro, that is basically just the end of Lady Snowblood. Like, shot for shot, it's absolutely insane how much he steals from that. But yeah, all of that is present here in these ones. So those are definitely influences. And the last one, because you brought up They Will Kill You, I'd actually recommend to check out Why Don't You Just Die? So that is actually that director's first movie. And that one is also... I think that one actually has a little bit. There's no black character in it. It's very Russian. It's a very Russian movie. Sure. But that one also has a little bit of revenge, a little bit of murky vengeance, very morally gray characters. There's almost no protagonist in this movie. because every time you think you're supposed to root for one person, we cut back to show who they actually are and why they're in this situation. And it just completely changes the landscape of everything that you're seeing. It all takes place largely in this one apartment. But I would actually say that Is God Is has a lot more to a lot more in line with that than it does with They Will Kill You. Just because it's very skewed vengeance. Everybody's got a motive. All those motives kind of collide in this apartment. But similarly to Is God Is, it absolutely claims people and has dangerous consequences. If you're going to go down the road to revenge, it is paved with hell.
Sure. I love that. Yeah, and I've been wanting to watch that ever since I saw They Will Kill You, so I'm gonna have to check that one out for sure. Anything else you wanted to bring up? Any closing thoughts here about Is God Is?
It's one of the best films of the year. I'm gonna throw that out there. I'm gonna make that bold claim. It's currently in my top 10. Nice. Obviously we've still got a lot of year left. We got to get through the fall festival, but if I'm being honest, everything I've heard out of Cannes, I don't know how many movies are going to knock out Is God Is from my top. Nice. So I highly recommend to see it. I think that Is God Is, for all the puzzle pieces that we've kind of been able to talk about here, I think this is the kind of movie we talk about when we say we want original cinema, we want new ideas, and we want to experience something new. We want new Black voices. Like, all the things you say are what you're waiting for to go to the theater. This is the time to put your money where your mouth is, guys. You can't just say you want that and then when you get it, refuse to go see it. That's on you. Because if you don't go see Is God Is, then we're just going to get 900 Minion movies for the rest of your life. And that's fine, but like, you're just going to sit back and complain, but it's your fault. Like, Amazon won't keep making movies like Is God Is if they don't make money, and it's on us to go see it. So I highly recommend you go check this movie out. It's honestly one of the best things in theaters. You're not going to get a whole lot that's better in the next couple of weeks until we get into the real summer blockbuster season. So see Is God Is. It's great. It's a great movie.
Speaking of original Black filmmakers with movies out, I love that Boots Riley is all over Twitter, like telling people, if you don't go see I Love Boosters this week, it does not matter. I don't want you going to watch this movie in a week or two.
Look, he's not wrong. I was pretty mid on I Love Boosters, but I am so glad something this unhinged exists. Nice. I will never be mad. I will never be mad that somebody was just like, Evan, and just threw everything at the wall and just went for broke. Like, we need that in cinema, even if it doesn't work. He's not wrong. It's
go see movies.
Yeah, go see movies, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Derrick, is there another movie you watched recently you'd like to recommend to our listeners?
Oh my gosh. I've seen so much. You know what? This one's coming out very soon, and I can't recommend it enough. But it's Tuner.
I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, I think Tuner. It's next week.
Sounds about right.
I think it's the 29th. I think May 29th is when it comes out. I know it was the AMC Screen Unseen recently. Please see this movie. This movie is incredible. You want to talk about puzzle pieces, man? This is like somebody took Good Will Hunting and Thief and just like threw it in a blender and then put a little Damien Chazelle jazz score on the top and was like, here you go. Here's a movie. And I drank that up like you would not believe, man. Those are some of my favorite things. And God, this movie rips. Leo Woodall is a star. He is so good in this movie. That one I've actually seen twice because I saw it at TIFF and then it came back to Sundance this year. And I was like, well, I got to watch it again because I can't stop talking about this movie. So that would definitely be one I would highly recommend. Get yourself to the theater, check it out.
I heard they're putting it in Dolby screens, which I really hope I get to see it that way because all the little turnings of knobs and stuff like that. I want that to be chunky, crunchy and chunky.
The sound design in this movie is immaculate. Just incredible sound design. Yeah.
Oh, can't wait. Can't wait. Well, Derrick, tell people where they can find you and your writing and everything you're up to.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me on pretty much all social media at DRock Comedy. It's DROK Comedy. You can also find me on Facebook because I'm in my 40s and I'm still on there. You just type in my name, Derrick Murray. My profile is public. And then you can check out all of my written work at thathollywoodshow.com or at nerdbot.com. And you can check out any of my other podcast work at This Is For Real Podcast. And then you can look that up on YouTube or thisisforreal.com.
Derrick, thank you so much for being here as always, and look forward to getting you back again sometime.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, man.
All right, so I hope you enjoyed that conversation about Is God Is. Thank you to Derrick Murray for joining me on that one, and thank you to all of you for listening. If you're enjoying the show, make sure you're subscribed. You can also follow us on social media at Piecing Pod and join our Facebook group, Popcorn and Puzzle Pieces, where I continue the conversation about all the movies we talk about here on the show. I think this one's going up on May 22nd, so if it is, we got a live show coming up next week at Galaxy Theaters Boulevard Mall, and if it's coming out after that, then there'll probably be another live show that you can go to our website, piecingpod.com, and enter to win tickets for. If you check piecingpod.com right now, and it is May 22nd, like I think, you could still win tickets for this coming Thursday show on Backrooms at Galaxy Theaters Boulevard Mall. Always check piecingpod.com for all the info on all of the live shows we've got coming up. You could also check out our Patreon, the Produced by David Rosen Patreon, where I post bonus and advanced content from Piecing It Together, Awesome Movie Year, and from my music career. I'm getting ready to release a new soundtrack album soon, and there will be some bonus tracks that will be getting cut from the album just to keep it like, a tight hour. And there's a lot more music because it's a 2-hour movie. So some of the pieces are going to get cut and put exclusively on the Patreon. So that's coming very soon to there. But there's always advanced episodes and other great content. It's patreon.com/bydavidrosen. And speaking of that soundtrack, it's coming out in June along with the film. It's for a film called Friday and Friday from director Chris Johnson, who I've worked with many times over the years. And it's kind of a action buddy cop movie, and it's really fun. But as I did last time, I released a soundtrack for one of his films called Beater. I, that time, included a whole bunch of music from some various short films that I had also worked on with him. I'm doing that again with this one because we've worked on another 4 films, I believe, roughly around the time of Friday and Friday. So I am including some extra pieces, and I'm going to play us off today with one of those extra pieces. This is a track from a film that was called Violet at Twilight. And this score will be, it's the main theme from the score, will be included on this soundtrack album for Friday and Friday as a bonus track. So let's play the main theme from Violets at Twilight. Hope you enjoy it, and we'll be back with more Piecing It Together real soon.
An All Points West production, produced by David Rosen in Las Vegas.